Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for our first of many summer transfer window updates. We're joined by the brilliant Kristof Terreur, European football correspondent, who brings us all the insights into so far the summer transfer window for Tottenham Hotspur. 2 over the line so far. We're hoping many more are coming our way. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We are also across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And like I say, we are back ahead of a crazy busy summer for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. And thank you so much already for joining us. Let's bring the man in who's going to give you some insights for this evening. Kristof, lovely to have you on Last Word on Spurs officially. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm a bit tired of a busy season. I feel like those players who now have to play some international games after watching loads of games. So yeah, and a transfer window coming on. So it's gonna be busy because not a lot has happened yet so far. You have a few big ones, but that already happened with Darwin Nunez, Liverpool, Tchouaméni to Real. You have Mbappe who's staying at PSG, but the big one still has to happen. Yeah, I forgot Haaland, of course, but that was already done and dusted a few months ago. So, yeah, we're ready for big transfer window as everybody expects.
Yep, that's fair to say. I think from Tottenham's perspective, to have 2 over the line already, and we're just early June, it's a good place to be. And many people asking me, yeah, I've managed to, I say, sum myself for the last 10 days or so. I have to say, it's pretty much been childcare on location, so hence the lack of a tan, which it would have been 5 or 6 years ago on a sunbed. But thank you so much for all the love, all the support already from you joining us this evening. Already 250 of you plus watching us live. So thank you so much already for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. And we're hoping Kristof is going to bring us some insights into Tottenham Hotspur's summer transfer window. Now, just a quick shout out to our sponsor of the show, Beavertown, of course. Beavertown Corner Pin, that's bang opposite the South Stand. They've been sponsoring the Last One on Spurs across the period of the half the season or so. They've been doing some great television down there in terms of the TV nights they've had for some of the Sky away games. So make sure you go and check those out. There'll be more to come next season. And we're looking forward to working with those guys across the summer with some content bringing you. So thank you so much for all your support there. Kristof, I think it's fairly to say for Tottenham, although you said at the moment it's been fairly quiet, Spurs have already got a couple of signings over the line, one of Ivan Perisic and also coming in Fraser Forster. What have you made so far of Spurs' summer transfer window?
Well, it must have been a while that they signed a player that early. I remember Gareth Bale joining quite early in May, but it's already like 15 years ago, I think. I remember that, for instance, 10 years ago, the deal of Jan Vertonghen was already over the line before the season. He visited the last game of Spurs. I don't know who they played. Even met Harry Redknapp, who was still the manager, but was supposed to be replaced by Andre Villas-Boas. So it's not like Spurs to do a lot of early business. That's what I make of it. But it feels like they are going to go for a big summer and going to give Antonio Conte a few good signings, because Antonio Conte always asked his board for new players. It's a pattern in his career. He always wants new players, to challenge the players he has, and he can use a few players. So I expect maybe 4 or 5 more players in. Maybe I'm too modest, and it will be 6 or 7. But Conte has asked for a few reinforcements for the squad, because he thinks this squad can use a few more players.
Interesting, Kristof. I think it's good to also get a bit of background on yourself. I mean, we've had you on Last One on Spurs before, covering a lot of our Belgian contingent. Do you want to give us a bit of insight into your kind of day-to-day affiliation with football and how you come involved when it comes to the summer transfer window and obviously beyond that?
Well, yeah, basically, I'm following all Belgian players around. Yeah, now Europe. A few years ago, they were all in the Premier League, all the top players. So yeah, I watch a lot of games of football players, and of course, as players are moving, I'm basically checking on their transfer movements like every 2 days. Like you have a few Belgians who will move clubs, like not to mention Romelu Lukaku, who wants to leave Chelsea and go back to Inter. You have Yuri Tielemans, who's just waiting for an offer from Arsenal, I think. So and yes, and you have Dries Mertens, who is the end of the contract at Napoli. So I have a few open files that I have to cover. So that's my daily job, and I write a lot on their performances too. But transfers has become an important part of the job, even more since social media has been there. I remember being able to break transfers 10 years ago in a newspaper. That's not possible anymore nowadays. When you have something, you have to drop it almost immediately on Twitter, on social media, or you get beaten by somebody else if you have the scoop. So it's a fierce competition. I must say I enjoyed covering transfers more like 15 years ago, to be fair, where I just was doing phone calls and not having to check hundreds of rumors that are not true, because that's the tough one nowadays. You get so many rumors, definitely to social media, that you don't know what is true anymore. And I think for fans it must be even more frustrating, or good, to be linked to many big names, and then your club signs only a smaller name, and then you get frustrated too, because some people have promised, or some people have said, we're in touch with the world's best players, which often isn't the case.
Yeah, interesting. And like I say, I think, Kristof, with Tottenham as a football club, it fills in with, since Paratici's come in, that we've heard obviously the news that Paratici likes to kind of get 8 or 9 deals in a line and then choose which ones he goes with, which obviously then means you've kind of got multiple the amount of speculation out there about the players Spurs could sign, because of the nature of how he does line up the deals and eventually goes for the one he chooses. So even more so with Tottenham, you feel that as a club, we are linked with so many players, so many names. And just to save everybody 6.5 hours tonight, we're not going to go through every single name Spurs have been linked with during the summer transfer window so far, but we'll go through the bulk and the majority of the names that we feel are appropriate to ask Kristof, purely because, at the moment, although it is fairly early, Spurs do seem to be making traction in the summer transfer window. 2 over the line already as we speak, and it looks like hopefully there's more to come. I think it's good to start with a player that looks like he may be following next for Spurs. And I think what we're going to do for the show tonight specifically, we're going to do it in category from defence to attack. So let's start on the defenders, Kristof. And obviously that brings us very nicely on to Jed Spencer, a player that Spurs, according to reports, they're in advanced negotiations for. Now, I think on Friday, there was a lot of hysteria that Spurs had already got the deal over the line, and we were then told to pretty much calm down. It wasn't as close. We saw sources from Middlesbrough outlets suggesting that, the player being away on England duty still at the moment with the under-21s means it's not going to be as obviously quick as what many people would have anticipated. But what do you make of this one, Kristof, as a first? Do you think Jed Spencer will become a Spurs player?
Well, there's a good chance that he will become a Spurs player, because, what everybody knows is that Paratici even went to scout him in person this season. So he's one that ticks a lot of boxes. It's the one, like when you say, does he have the qualities to become an Antonio Conte player? I would say yes. He's young and English, which helps a club too. If they want to bring a few foreign players in, you need enough English players too. So I think that's one that might have been lined up where they have already personal agreements with the player in place, but where they just have to agree with the club. And usually that happens after an international period. So just have to have a few more days or weeks of patience for that one. But I think from it in a chat with an agent, it came up that he's the one that they are looking at for right back, that it's one of their preferred option. Maybe Paratici has lined up 2 others that we don't know of yet, but he's one of the ones that they've lined up. Just scored an own goal, by the way, for England under 21, I see. So he might be an ideal Spurs player, I'd say.
Probably not too far mistaken there, Kristof. Imagine it, just as we're talking, an own goal goes in there. You couldn't make it up. Out of interest, Kristof, have you been surprised by Spurs' real lack of homegrown stars over the last 3 or 4 years? I mean, when I look back now for Tottenham, I think Spurs haven't really had a competent, I would say, fullback signed since Kyle Walker. And when you consider how long ago that was, it's been quite a significant amount of time for Tottenham. Listen, given hopefully Ryan Sessegnon will come good in time. Conte seems to be a big fan of him. Have you been surprised by Spurs' real lack of success in the homegrown market?
Well, it's a difficult market. I think it's difficult to when you want to when you play for a Champions League ticket every single season. It gets more difficult to get players through or to give players the time to develop. It was much easier when Spurs weren't chasing under Pochettino the first season, when they weren't really, they were just chasing Europa League. First, then Champions League, but they were just growing as a club. But now you're there, you're expected to be top 4 every season. You're not a challenger anymore. Then it's more difficult to get those homegrown players to grow, and maybe made a few of wrong choices. Some players just have sometimes bad luck too. But it's definitely a difficult market. Look at what Dele Alli did, for instance. He was very, very promising when he came through. I remember watching him. It must have been like the season where they won. Was it 5-3 against Chelsea at home on New Year's Day or something like that? That was an amazing game where Dele Alli was fantastic, and you'd think that's the new big star, but then things happen in personal life. They suddenly become stars, and their potential, they don't fulfill the potential. So it's very difficult sometimes to predict how personalities will react to success too. And that's the same. That's the risk you take with every move. How are they going to react to success, or when they become good players? Are they going to make that next step? And I think it's been difficult for Spurs, but if you see what Kyle Walker's still been doing at Manchester City, they lost their player, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think for Spurs, I think we've been craving out to try and get that homegrown market back under, some form of success, because I think with Spurs, as you say, since Kyle Walker, I mean, we've had Joe Rodon come in, Kyle Walker-Peters, one that we've let go. I think it's an argument that Spurs, that although now the managers they've got in the likes of Mourinho, Conte, there's an expectancy now to come in and be successful and win. And whether you've got the time then to be able to nurture, to train, to develop fullbacks is maybe an argument. But let's hope if Jed Spencer is the man, Conte can work with him. I think we know next season there's going to be a huge amount of gains with Tottenham. So I think the good thing for someone like Jed Spencer is, Kristof, that, he's going to come into a side where he's going to be guaranteed a good amount of football. Because I think under maybe potentially, different times at Tottenham, that may not have always been the case.
Yeah, but definitely with Conte, who likes to stick to his same 11. To be fair, that's what he did at Inter too. Like, for instance, with Champions League, but you still have a League Cup and the FA Cup. I think it's still difficult for players to develop in those kind of teams. But if Conte believes in you, then age doesn't matter. Look at what he's done with, gonna name, for instance, Bestoni at Inter. He wasn't always playing, but he slowly started to get his chance. So if you're good enough, then he will give you the chance. And you've Doherty who's had his injuries, so there might be some chances for Spence, and he just has to take them under Conte. I remember when he was at Chelsea, for instance, in those League Cup games, like Charlie Musonda, who was at that time still a very skillful, young, promising player. He got the chance from Conte and he scored a few goals. And when he likes you in training session, and you show the right bravery, he likes very brave play. If you're brave, then he might give you the chance. So it's not the one that will say no against young players. It's often what's often used against Mourinho, but we can't forget that he has given a few youngsters a chance too. But once you're not getting results or you're not performing up to the best level, those youngsters are the first victims. That's what always happens. When you're successful, you can bring them in quite easily, but you have to you have to be careful. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to say he's going to play yet, but Conte is the one. If he believes in you, if you tick all his boxes, he will give you chances.
Yep, no, I agree. You mentioned a player there, Kristof, Alessio Bestoni. I think Spurs social media over the course of the last few weeks, it's been flooded by Bestoni in terms of, there's a real desire amongst Spurs fans, me included, to see him join the club. Obviously, on Friday, we had an update from the agent to say that the player will be staying at Inter Milan. Agent on the screen that says, what's your take on Inter Milan's finances? But I just want to ask you, Kristof, with an agent coming out like that saying he's staying, is that the end of it? Is that the end of the sentence? Or is there more to this soap opera behind Alessio Bestoni potentially still being a Tottenham player come the end of the summer transfer window?
You're still hopeful that he will come. I remember Romelu Lukaku about a year ago saying that he would definitely stay at Inter. And then a month later, he was pushing for a move to Chelsea. So it's never the end. But if I was Inter, I wouldn't sell Bastoni. I would sell a few of the other players, of the older players, like Stefan de Vrij, who's got 1 year left on his deal, or Skriniar, who's in talks with PSG, or PSG is looking at him, but they haven't made the final offer yet. So we'll have to see. But definitely, what I know is, because of knowledge of the Lukaku files, where they don't have a lot of money, they can't sign Lukaku back permanently. They have to do a loan construction. Still, to balance the book, they would need to sell a few players, like for 60 or 80 million euros they are looking for. So they're looking to, just like last season when they sold Lukaku and Hakimi, they will sell one or two of their star players. But when you want to build for the future, you're not going to you're not going to sell your talented Italian central defender, I guess. Then you're going for the 28 or the 29-year-old or the 30-year-old. So it would surprise me that Inter would sell it, but I can understand why Spurs are looking at him and why Conte wants him. He's the most promising of those defenders at Inter, and he's one of the Italy's best prospects. So that's why they probably looked at him. That's why they probably got in touch. But that will be a very difficult one to get over the line. Definitely with Inter to if they sell one of the other defenders, then I don't think they will sell him.
What's interesting about Bestoni is the fact that obviously it feels, from what we've heard from other sources, friends of the show, Alistair Gold, Ali said that the fee isn't going to be a problem for Tottenham. It's going to be more about convincing the player. And we've seen situations in the past where, for example, Spurs obviously signed Emerson Royale under false pretenses, where the player didn't necessarily want to come to Tottenham, wanted to play for Barcelona. They brought him in. How does that work in terms of that situation there, Kristof, where it feels like Inter's finances may dictate that situation and the player isn't that keen on a move?
Well, I always say, when a player doesn't want to come, is it a good thing to give a lot of money for a player? I always think if he doesn't want to come, you simply don't sign him. It's maybe what I'm not gonna compare the game to Lukaku, but he was very keen on staying at Inter. He was in love with Milano last year. He's still in love with Milano. He was in love. He loved the teammates, but suddenly a big offer comes in to say, we want to sell you. If we get a lot of money, he in the end gets convinced that Chelsea, that he has unfinished business. He comes back and realizes after 2 months or 3 months that, this isn't the place where I want to be. I love Milano more. And then he does an interview and it's a complete car crash. But if a player needs convincing, then if I was a manager or the technical director, I wouldn't take the huge risk to give a lot of money. Although for Bastoni, maybe you can make the exception because he's young. But if he needs to be convinced, then it's never a good sign. That he will never work out well. Then he will be mentally never for the full 100% at your club. It can always change, but players need to be happy outside football too. So if he loves Italy, if he can't get away for a long time from his family, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. I don't know Bestoni personally. I don't know his background either. So, but that in my eyes, then you better concentrate on other targets. But yeah, he's still a very promising guy, and Conte's worked with him. Conte knows him well, so yeah, let's see what happens. But I think Inter first going to try and sell another player and another defender, and then maybe we will speak again end of August that they haven't sold one of their older defenders and that they still need to sell a player. Then it might be Bastoni. It's what often happens with clubs who are under pressure. So it will depend on other moves. But at the moment, I'm not convinced it will happen because of what they are trying to do and offering players like Skriniar anyway at different places. So we'll see. But I think they will never close that file. That's one that stays on the desk of Paratici till when does I don't know when the transfer window is slam shut this season. I don't know even the date to be fair.
I think it is 1st of September.
First or 2nd of September. But it always depends on the weekends. So the 1st of December will be still there because if you get the opportunity to sign a player like that, you will do it and you will try everything to convince him.
Yep, interesting. Right, conscious of time already. We're 20 minutes in, Kristof. We've not even finished the defenders yet, so I'm conscious of time. Obviously, other players that we've obviously mentioned for this, for defence, Gleason Bremer, a player that we know Ecce Inter Milan are apparently keen on as well. Anything about that one at the moment that we should keep an eye on at all? Kristof, it feels like the player is leaning towards a move to Inter, but Spurs' name still does not seem to go away. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it will. I think it will depend on who Inter are selling to. I think he's the first replacement for instance, Skriniar. So it's all connected. I saw him. He's been linked to a lot of clubs. To be fair, and Torino are open to selling him, but I feel that it's not Spurs' first option. That's what Inter have lined him up as their first option. Maybe it's Spurs' third option on the list because like Paratici, you know how clubs work. They draw up, I don't know if he does 10 or 5 players in his cell, but if he's one of the 10, I don't think he's the first one because I think if they really want him, they can easily convince Torino, and it would have already been there. Maybe it would have been done like with Perisic.
Sorry, Kristof, I lost my connection there for just a second. That's absolutely fine. Another centre-back, if we move back on the centre-backs that have been mentioned, is Josko Gvardiol. I hope I pronounced that right. He made 29 Bundesliga appearances last season, scoring twice, providing a couple of assists. A player that apparently is on Spurs' preferred list of centre-backs, along with also Pau Torres. Thoughts on those couple of centre-backs at the moment?
They both have been linked with a lot of clubs. I think his agent is trying to find them a new club. That's what it looks like. I don't know. I thought that Guardiola, Guardiola. I always think he's the ideal player for Manchester City just because of the name. But the link with Guardiola, of course, is the Croatian Pep Guardiola. Basically, if you look at his name. But yeah, he's looking for a club. But I think him and Torres are just like Bremen, not the first, second options of Spurs. They're looking at first at others, and they will see. It's the one that they keep open and say, if we can't get target 1 or target 2, we might come back to you. So, but yeah, agents are trying to do their business, of course, by offering them everywhere, and it's a bit. With transfer rumors, it happens a lot. An agent offers a player somewhere. Club says, okay, we're going to see. And that means there's no for an agent. That means there's interest. So we'll have to see what happens with those two. But they're both good defenders. So it's like if you looked at some Champions League football or some or Europa League football, you'll see that those are like in the category 2, I think, not the first category, like not the top defenders, like if I name like or are available like Skriniar, or it's category 2. But yeah, for club that's challenging for Champions League places, they will might be easier ones to get than, for instance, a Skriniar will say, I will only leave Inter Milan for a top club like PSG, for instance. So then Guardiola and Pau Torres are deals that are easier to do, I think. So there are ideal deals for later in the window when you can't get first or second targets.
Okay, interesting. Just to finish up on defenders, wing backs, Kristof, Filip Kostic, a name that's also mentioned at the moment. Owen Weindel, I think hopefully I pronounced that right. Please tell me if I haven't pronounced that right. A player that Spurs are reportedly in talks to sign from AZ Alkmaar. We've also had links to, let's have a look. Peves Ustapinan from Villarreal and Ilya Zabani. Any of these names, Kristof, at the moment worth keeping an eye on at the moment, Tottenham?
Well, I think Filip Kostic. I read like a few days ago somewhere in Germany that he's now open to staying at Eintracht Frankfurt. So I think Spurs are used to get him a new deal. What often happens, and some other players, they might the other three, they might be on the scouting list. They might have watched a few games of them. They might have been in touch with agents to check on their salary, transfer status, just to have an overview of what they want to do. And then an agent who wants to get a move for a player, just drops the name of Spurs and say, yeah, if you're looking for a backup option, that might be the names you're going for, because you still have. If I look at your defense, you have Romero, who will always play because he's your best defender. You have still Eric Dyer on the list, Sanchez, Ben Davies, who can play in the center. They will definitely get a center back, one or maybe two, and then you go for a big name that will definitely play, and you will go for a backup option, and that might be one of those names. If they need anyone, it will depend on budget spent too, because all is related how much your first target costs, I think. And there are a few other priorities in the Spurs squad too, so they need to spend the money on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there was a name that was mentioned over the course of the weekend, Dynasty Udogie. I don't know if I pronounced that right. A name that you've heard at all, Kristof, linked to Tottenham?
No, that's the first thing I hear about him. I even have to Google the name. To be fair, no, I'm joking, but it's the first time. It's not been mentioned to me. So,
Okay.
and I haven't read it in anywhere else. But yeah, it's a player who plays in Italy, of course. So
Yeah,
all Italians are linked.
with
So
Tottenham.
because
Absolutely.
of Paratici. So. It might happen. You never know. But you're looking for something right, left, backup option or first option. So it's perfectly possible. But as
Yep.
Perisic can play on that position, if you play wing back, he can play up front too.
Yep.
I don't think left is a priority anymore. Definitely, if somebody believes in Sessegnon, you still have Reguilón. With if you sign another one, that you will have to get. An option for to sell him or to loan him out. So there are a lot of things to be done, and there will be several of those names being linked to Spurs over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Adrian's asking the question. One name I did bring up, and we are going to move on after this to midfielders in relation to the AZ Alkmaar fullback. Again, I will probably butcher his name. Owen Weindel, I think it's pronounced. Is he a player that, in terms of his ability, that we should be excited about, Kristof, or is it one at the moment, links-wise, we should be relatively calm on?
To be fair, I haven't seen enough of football of AZ, and I haven't watched a lot of Dutch football to give a good judgment on him. AZ have always got an eye for good players over the last few years, so their scouting is good, but I can't really judge him because I haven't seen him enough with my own eyes, and then I'd rather say, but I don't know, than give an opinion that's not based on anything. Yeah, I know he's young and that he's given a lot of assists this season. But the Dutch league is also difficult to predict how good players will be. But it's quite open. It's an open league. Some make it immediately. But for instance, if you want to sign a striker from the Dutch league, I'm always cautious because you have the examples of Vincent Janssen, for instance. You have Luis Suarez, who was scoring loads of goals too. But it's difficult to judge a player, difficult to judge some players in the Dutch league because it's so open. It's a really open league. So, but anyway, I'm not. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to judge him because I just don't know, to be fair.
No, I appreciate that. I think many people appreciate your honesty as well. So thank you so much. What we will do is we will go for our first break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching audience on YouTube, there's over 600, 700 of you plus watching us live across all of our platforms. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. On a summer transfer window update where we're in early June, Spurs have got 2 over the line. And listen, hopefully more to come. Kristof, thank you so much again for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. We want to steer the show towards a former Spurs player that I know many are excited potentially about a reunion under Antonio Conte. And that leads us nicely onto Christian Eriksen. Now, reports this week seem to indicate that he has decided to pursue a new challenge. Brentford potentially might not be an option for him in the upcoming season. What can you tell us about Christian Eriksen? Are you going to break our hearts? Is there a potential return to Tottenham on the cards, Kristof?
As I was told by somebody, I don't know who told me that he wants to stay in London. So that's a good thing for Spurs. I think that might be, there's the emotional connection, of course. Antonio Conte has worked with him at Inter. Everybody also knows that it was difficult for Conte at the beginning to find a place for him in the squad. He struggled in the first months under Conte, to be fair, and then he found a good solution in his squad. I don't think Eriksen is like the one where you say that's the player they need now, because you have Harry Kane, who changed a bit his role and likes to drop deep, the zone where Eriksen likes to operate. But as Conte's brilliant manager, if he wants him, if they sign him, he will find a solution. But yeah, it will be emotionally and towards the fans. I think it's definitely after what he's been through, like a beautiful statement. And Eriksen, since he's made his comeback, has been brilliant, to be fair, also for Denmark. So yeah, he would add definite quality to the squad, and he knows Spurs, so it will be an emotional one. But I don't think he was a priority at the start of the window when they were looking at positions. But if they can get him, and if he says yes to them, I don't think Spurs will say no. It won't cost a lot either. So it's an easy transfer to do, because he's a free player now. So
it feels like a no-brainer, Kristof, by the fact that obviously, Spurs have had him before. They know his quality. There's a lot of those players in the squad. He knows how Conte wants him to play. He's playing the Conte system. He's won a league under Conte as well. The only thing that I think of with Christian is that he didn't leave the club in the best possible circumstances, in the way that obviously he wanted that move to Inter. Do you think that's going to have any impact on this transfer, or do you think with what's gone on in Eriksen's life and obviously how he's managed to bring himself back to playing football, that's to be admired, and maybe time has moved on now, that water's settled under the bridge with Eriksen and the Spurs hierarchy?
Well, different people. Yeah, Daniel Levy is still on board, but that's at the point when he didn't want to sign, there was another manager in charge. So I think a lot has changed, and I think people in football forget quite quickly too. So I won't say that his past, like the way he left, that will be a huge stumbling block for them. So if they want him back, because I haven't got a full confirmation that they really want him back, but if he offers himself, if they can sign him, they will do it. Apart from what's happened like 2 years ago, nobody cares anymore. If you can get quality for free, basically, you do it. You do it. So they got still a little bit of money when he left for Inter, not a lot, but they were. I think it's like you said before. It's a no-brainer. I think if you can get. I mean, if he wants to come back, of course, and if he's in full fitness, because you will have medicals. But anyway, they will know the risks. They know his medical past too, so they know everything about him. And character-wise, he might not be the most open player towards media, but all the players I've talked with that have played several years with him in dressing rooms really appreciate him. He's really a nice guy. So I don't think anyone will have a problem with him. And that meant, as some of them who played with him, like who was still in the courts of Spain, like the likes like Kane and Altaya, they will welcome him with open arms, because it's just a good character.
Yeah, absolutely. Constant time, Kristof. Just going to throw some more central midfielders at you. Lucas Paqueta, Lyon midfielder linked with Tottenham, and also a long-term player that feels linked with Tottenham since Paratich's arrival, Weston McKennie. Either one of those two, can you see joining the club this summer?
I think like McKennie is the profile that they would like a player who can fill in all positions in midfield and central midfield, like box to box. Promising. Paratici signed him for Juve too, and Juve want to get rid of him. That's quite clear. That was already the case in the January window when they tried to offer. I don't know where they offered him, but at that point, Axel Witsel, the Belgian international, was one of the options for Juve. So that's how I know that they wanted to get rid of McKennie. But then he said, and the manager said, no, in the end, he's not leaving. But McKennie, yes. Paqueta, haven't heard anything of him. Might be that they're looking at him, but it's also, again, position-wise, McKennie fits the bill better, I think, of a Conte system. So that makes more sense than Paqueta, for instance. We'll see. Last Lyon midfielder that joined wasn't a huge success. I think he didn't make it. He played a bit, but it was frustrating. So let's see. But McKennie, yes, fits the bill, ticks all contact boxes again. So let's see if they can get it on the line. But Juventus are definitely looking for other midfielders too. So if they get Pogba in, for instance, there won't be a place for McKennie anymore. He will play less than he did last season. And when you see, first I was not. I was not convinced, but when they signed last in January, Betancourt and Kulusevski, you think, they signed two players or in and out of the team of Juventus, where you're not sure, they weren't guaranteed starters. You think, are they going to strengthen the squad? McKennie is in the same position, but if you see what impact that Betancourt and Kulusevski had on Spurs' second half of the season, maybe it's a no-brainer to say it's signing a Juve replacement, a Juve sub. So
okay, brilliant. Kristof, I'm going to just finish off on the midfielders. Spurs, there's several at the moment that may potentially leave the club this summer. We've got Steven Bergwijn, who's openly admitted that he would like a move away from the club. We've got Tanguy Ndombele's future is still up in the air. Giovanni Lo Celso, another Spurs player that you feel is going to probably end up moving on. Brian Hill, talented Spanish winger, obviously was out on loan at Valencia. Those guys I've mentioned there, the likes of Bergwijn and Ndombele, Hill, Lo Celso. Who's the closest to the exit door, would you say, at the moment, Kristof?
I think Bergwijn is, they already made an offer. So Ajax already made an offer. So I think Bergwijn will be the one leaving, and he's also pushing for a move. I remember just before the international game that they played against Belgium that he even mentioned that he wants to leave and it's time now. So I think he might be leaving. I think he will be the one leaving. Lo Celso, if you see how he played in Spain last season, in the second half of the season, you think that there might be a suitor to that. We'll have to see construction, how they do it. Will they do it with a new loan construction, or will they sell him permanently? But I think there's no place for him at Spurs anymore, so they will try to find solutions. Ndombele is joining his own windows. I think he's not they don't want it back, they will find a solution again if it's on loan or as a on a permanent deal. And the same will maybe happen to Brian Hill if Conte is not up for him. Players that Conte in the past, it's the same pattern. Players that Conte doesn't really rate, yeah, he pushes them aside and barely gives them chances again. So they will have to find solution, and probably they will need a little bit of money too for they have a good budget without sales, but they want to get rid of those guys of the wage bill, of course, and get some money of the investment back too. So
Okay, fantastic. Right, let's discuss forwards. A player that is being heavily linked with a move to Tottenham, which I know is really controversial at the moment. That is of Everton forward Richarlison. I know people are very already interested to see what happens on that first day of training if he signs with Christian Romero, how those two get on the first training session. I know we've obviously seen images of those guys clashing last season. What can you tell us at the moment, Kristof, on Spurs' pursuit of Richarlison? How real is that interest as things stand?
there's definitely been contact with this with his people. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's a funny one because I'm in a chat with a few Spurs fans, and when we were discussing a few months ago, yeah, I think it must have been half of April, which Everton player would you take? And I mentioned if I was Spurs, I would take Richarlison as a sub. It's the only one that might offer something to Spurs. So that's why I still find it funny when it popped up. I say, oh, they've been looking at our chat. But yeah, he can play all three attacking positions. He would be a good backup for when Son's injured, for instance. He can play deep. I see why they're looking at his profile. He's an international, of course, so we'll add some international experience to it. As you're playing lots of games, you will need to rotate your front players a little bit. See what Inter did, for instance, when they signed Alexis Sanchez. That's the type of player that Conte likes. So he would like one of those, like one who's at the same level of the three he has, or close to the level. And then Richarlison, if he doesn't cost too much, because Everton will probably ask loads of money, then yeah, it's an ideal squad signing in my eyes. He will make your bench stronger than you have now with Lucas Moura. He has his ups and his downs. He's has done his things for Spurs. But if you look at, for instance, Bergwijn, Charles is an upgrade on Steven Bergwijn, so you don't have to doubt that one. So it's showing ambition, to be fair. If you go for those players, if you go for the first choice striker of a Premier League club, so it's showing ambition. We'll see if they get that move done, because it will be a difficult one also, because he earns good money there, but I'm not excluding it that they will get him, and definitely there has been contact with his entourage. So, but probably they won't be the only one, because I think Richarlison thinks he might be too good for playing relegation football as a Brazilian international.
Yep. No, listen, I think it's one obviously we'll keep an eye on and see. Other forwards linked to Tottenham so far this window. We've seen the likes of Alan Maximan, Marcus Rashford, Gabriel Jesus, even Raheem Sterling. Any of those names at the moment, Kristof, worth keeping an eye on for you in terms of alternative forwards to, obviously, we've mentioned Richarlison?
Well, it's all the same type of players, to be fair. No, it's the same type of player. So
yep.
it's all. But yeah, Rashford, I think, he's not coming. That's the way you think. Yeah, maybe United were looking for a solution, but it's not the one that will say, "Yeah, I'm going to leave my boyhood club for Spurs." Sterling, I think, is hoping to go somewhere on a free, and hope that next year, and hope that a Spanish team might come in. So yeah, not really fond of the other names being linked. Like Sam Maximin, I can understand. Maybe he's option 3 or option 4. He had a good second half of the season, but yeah, as Newcastle have a lot of money nowadays, he might come expensive too. Yeah, you might even be looking if I'm looking at that category of players and there hasn't been any contact, but then you look, for instance, at Brighton and you say Leandro Trossard, that's the same type of player that can add something to a squad. He's not been linked to Spurs. I think he might even extend his contract with Brighton, but you have a few of those players in the Premier League too. So and then you don't have to look at the Man Cities or the Man Uniteds who will never sell you those players cheaply, or they will ask huge wages because they are on big wages. And Spurs don't have the reputation to pay the biggest wages to players. So to players who haven't proven anything yet at the club. So I think you might exclude him, but unless never say never in football. But I don't see those ones happening at the moment.
Okay. Do you think, Kristof, just to kind of finish up and summarise now, I mean, we're very early in to the summer transfer window, aren't we? We're days in. I mean, there's going to probably be a lot of names that are going to be thrown at us that we haven't obviously encountered yet. I mean, how do you see the window panning out for Tottenham in general?
Well, I think they want to definitely at least that there will be another full five, yeah, maybe even six signings. But Spurs and even Paratici not known to be directly on the front foot like what Man City and Liverpool have done, for instance. Yeah, that's not Spurs. Spurs were under Daniel Levy were always the club of the last days of August, to be fair, when they did the big deals. So maybe it's changed. Conte wants what Conte needs. Conte wants most of his players at start of preseason because his system and his way of working asked 4 weeks of preseason. So the players that adapt the best to a season are the ones who have a full, let's say 3 weeks of preseason with him. And people might know from other shows that I really like Conte as a manager. I remember following Italy before Euro 2016 when he was still the Italy manager just before he joined Chelsea. I saw a few of the training sessions and I saw all their preparation games, and they were already they were playing in Malta. I still remember that game. It was a hot day in Malta against Scotland. There, for instance, Bonucci was trying out a long ball that they would use in the Belgian game. In the game against Belgium, for instance, they scored from a long ball from Bonucci, which they tried already several times in a game against Scotland, which was, they played, I'm not going to say play similarly, but they played in a similar system at Belgium at the time. And he was already trying out things. And then you hear things from players, how do you say it? And not
Meticulous,
how meticulous he is in video sessions, in tactics, how they train, and also food wise, banning all sweets and all things there, all sauces. Then you get him at Chelsea. Then you get the stories of the Chelsea guys who really liked him as a coach with playing 11 against the ghost team very tactically. It's unlike some English clubs, but Conte's, I think, the Conte method really works with players who are not yet stars because stars at Real Madrid, they will revolt against a Conte method. But like at Spurs, you don't have real stars. Your biggest star, not from the way he behaves, but from profile. You look at Harry Kane, he's a very docile guy who just does everything for the manager. So I think Conte next season will be even better than this season. If he's had a full preseason, he hasn't had a preseason in the second half of the season when they weren't having suddenly all those European games anymore. Then you see that when Conte, you still had a tight schedule with matches getting cancelled or played later. But once Conte gets a time, a full week with the players, he's at his best when they can tactically prepare everything. And that's why you now, with playing Champions League, you need that preseason and you need those players in quite quickly. because the Conte system, it's like Pep Guardiola always says, the Conte system is one that's easily installed. Like you need a few weeks in preseason, but you need them. And Pep, for instance, he says he needs more time, like a few months to get his methods to his players. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Spurs on the Conte, definitely when he has also all the players, all the profiles that he wants, and he's a much demanding guy, to be fair, profile wise. Let's see. I think it will be difficult to beat the big ones, to beat Man City and Liverpool, but Conte can be paying for those kind of clubs, as he already proven. So
that was going to be my final question for you, Kristof. Where do you think Spurs under Conte, having a full pre-season with hopefully, I would imagine, Kristof, it's probably a two-part question now. I mean, how many players do you think the club will look at bringing in up to pre-season? Do you think that'll be key? Do you think a lot of Spurs' players and business will be done ahead of pre-season?
Conte wants that, so I think the board and Daniel Levy already know that he wants them quite quickly. They won't. I think they must have at least. You need a few important. You will need, like, if they want a central defender, for instance. I think they need to have him in the first weeks of preseason, because they play an important role. Unless it's somebody who knows his system, of course, he will need less time to adapt. So, but yeah, I think 2 or 3 players might be before when Spurs will be starting, like most of the clubs, somewhere beginning of July, I guess. You will need 2-3 players in, otherwise they won't be ready. I think so. If it's one player at the end of preseason, it doesn't matter, 1 or 2, but your 3-4 most important players, you need them to get in before half July, end of July, because then you're starting again. So that's what Conte will be demanding. Not sure they're gonna be able to meet his deadline, but that's knowing the past of the club, of course.
Okay, and finally, Kristof, sorry, I know someone asked their question about who you'd like to see Spurs sign, but conscious of time, have you got a preference about who you'd like to see Spurs sign, Kristof, for you? Do you have a preference of players but you'd like to see Tottenham sign?
Well, I think some of the names that have been linked are good. I would go for McKennie too, for instance. That's the one that fits the bill. So that's the one they have to sign. But yeah, as I mentioned in the chat, I have to say Richarlison, because I said that to people in April. They have to sign Richarlison to upgrade their bench. But if I have to pick one player, and the one I rate the most is just Bestoni, I think. But that's the one they're probably not gonna get. It's like the cards are now, that they won't be able to get. But let's never say never. Maybe by saying it now, we will change fate. So,
amen. Fingers crossed. Finally, Kristof, where do you think under Conte, what can Tottenham do next? What can Tottenham do next season for you? Finally, what can they do? Can they mount a title challenge? Will it be again finishing the top 4 and finally getting a trophy over the line? What do you think?
Well, I'm really looking forward to Conte in Champions League, because he's always been struggling in the Champions League with all of his clubs. So he will have a point to prove there too. But I think they have to go for 3rd place. Conte always want to do better. Maybe hope that Liverpool or City drop off a little bit and challenge for 2nd spot. But yeah, the cups in England are so unpredictable. You can't really say it. Conte made it to the FA Cup final, I think, twice with Chelsea. Am I right? Yes, I think so. He lost the final when Courtois was still there, and then the year after I know that was already, was that Conte? No, that was already Sarri.
He's won. I know he's won FA. Obviously,
he's won the end with Eden Hazard in place. So penalties. So he has that reputation. So yes, he should at least get a FA Cup. I don't really care about Carabao Cup. To be fair, but you have already won that half trophy, if I may believe Jose Mourinho. So
exactly.
No, but yeah, you expect them to win a trophy, but it's a really difficult one, definitely with the opponents. There was always
Yeah.
Man City or Liverpool. That you must say they are far ahead at the moment of everybody else. We'll see what Man United will do under their new manager. See what Chelsea. It's unsure what they're going to do. So those five, and we haven't mentioned Arsenal yet, but I can't mention it on here, I think. So.
No, yeah, not. We don't talk about not mid-table teams that are quite far down now. Well, I should say we just pipped them, but yeah, no. Listen, it's Kristof. Been an absolute pleasure. Finally, where can our listeners, viewers, where can they find you across social media?
Well, I'm on Twitter. Yeah, it's under my name and an @HLN in England. Yeah, I can't change that one anymore because that was my name before I moved to England. Then I was a brand for my newspaper, so I'm a brand name, not my own name. But yeah, then suddenly a lot of Belgians started leaving the Premier League, and I started covering the guys in Italy, the guys in Spain at Madrid. So, but on Instagram, for instance, I don't post a lot of news on Instagram. So if they want to get the news, they just have to follow me on Twitter. If they want to follow me on Instagram, I sometimes post pictures of things that are happening in my football life. Then they should go to Kristof _ the Instagram. Don't do anything on Facebook anymore. Don't have a TikTok channel because I can't dance. So it's maybe one to do a TikTok channel just doing transfers, maybe. But
Yeah, absolutely, maybe.
The TikTok transfer dance or something like announce a transfer the most original way. No.
Well, Kristof, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us for a summer transfer window update.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Kristof will catch up with you across the summer and see how things are progressing with Tottenham. So there you go, guys. Our first update of the summer so far. Plenty more to come in Last Word on Spurs. We're back with you this Thursday for a midweek edition as the fixtures are coming out for the 2022-2023 Premier League season. Keep your eyes on that. Thank you so much as always for your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. So from myself, Kristof, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.